So in last session we see profiles, right? We see how to maintain profiles. Yeah. So for each environment we have to maintain properties. Definitely there would be various set of properties are going to change as it is whatever uh, we have used in the local may not be used for the dev environment or SIT, UAT production, right? For each environment during uh, before deployment, right? If you have same properties, let's say if you used one properties file only, there you have local properties to connect with your local database. After your development, you may merge it to dev branch. From there, maybe for integration purpose, if you have a dev server, to run it in dev server, before running it in dev server, you need to give dev database URL or any other environment configurations for dev if you have. You have to change them. You have to go to your properties and you need to change them. And when you go to SIT, again there you need to maintain SIT properties, UAT production, rather than having a same properties file and keeping all the properties into the, I mean just by removing and adding the properties here. You can maintain a properties file separately for each environment. You may call it as a profile. You may call it as a profile for that particular environment. Let's say if it is running in dev, you can pass your profile name as a dev. If it is SIT. We know how to pass it, right? So we need to call spring dot profiles dot active. This is not the right name, right? Spring dot hyphen spring dot profiles dot active is equal to dev. When I pass, my application will automatically pick up dev properties. If I pass SIT properties, UAT properties, right? So you can have either application dot properties file or YML file. Two files are supported by default here. So if you see last example, we see configurations with the properties file. For each environment, we created one properties. So let's convert them into YML files or before YML, right? Let us see how I can have all the properties into same file also. One file for all environments also we can maintain. One properties file or YML file. In last session we created multiple files for each environment, one file. Then 31%. Now see this profiles. So here we are trying to injecting driver URL username password into this controller. Then we are doing save operation. And for local environment, we have a local properties file. Here we given local schema, local database schema it is using. For SIT, we have given different SIT schema. For dev environment, we have given again a different property, dev schema. So the property name is common, sms dot URL, sms dot URL, sms dot URL across. But this configuration is changing from environment to environment. Obviously, the database, the same databases we may not use. For local, we use local database. For dev database. For SIT database. For production database. So just here in our case, every database is in my local only. So I just changed the schema for our understanding purpose. And as soon as I start it here, as soon as I start it here, if I start directly without passing any profile name, without passing any profile name, right, as a command line argument, if I don't pass the profile name, by default it will read your application properties. By default it will read your application properties, and URL is not available here, so it will give you exception. Default application properties file will be loaded for every environment. Along with this application properties file, I want to plus load environment data also. My environment particular data also I want to load. So that data is available in a separate properties files. So how this will pick up the driver name? Without a driver name, if I run, what will happen? Let's see again here. Okay. So as a command line argument, we have given spring dot active dot profile. What is the property? Spring dot active dot profile. Here also you can pass spring dot profiles dot active. Which profile you want? Is it a local, dev, SIT? You pass it here in your properties file so that it will plus add local properties file data, application hyphen properties. Okay, if you change environment to SIT, it will pick up SIT properties file. If you pass dev, it will add dev properties here. Okay, so let me give local. So what it will do, it will load your properties. Let's keep hash. Hash is the common, right? Yeah. So this is one way. This is one way to tell your profile, which profile you are using. SMS.url is not available in local. It is there, right? In local, SMS.url is available. Is it? Oh, profiles. Yeah, yeah. Now profile is local. Yes, yes, there is. I heard you. Yeah, that is the problem. Yeah. So now run it. Yeah, I'll tell you. Those arguments, nothing to do with them. So they are just for testing. I copied them, not for this example. Okay. So now you can see your application is started. No arguments are required here. Zero arguments. Zero arguments required. Okay. No arguments for now here. Okay. For this application. Now my application is getting started. Earlier I got error by saying URL not available. Now from where this URL is picked up? Because you configured your profile. So from that profile only it picked up. You given local profile. See, now it is showing the following one profile is active, which is local. Earlier while we used to run applications, it used to say no profile is active, no profile is active. Now it is saying one profile is active, which is your local. So what does it mean? So I have properties here. These properties are some common properties I have, and this specific to this environment, local environment, that we need some additional properties. For that additional properties, we have a properties file. So this additional property is getting loaded there. This getting, this property is getting available along with this server port number, driver, URL, username, password. Along with these four properties, URL also available now. Okay. Now this value you can hard code here, or else during DevOps Jenkins running, once you move your code to dev environment, from there via Jenkins, while you are running, if you want to pass your environment also, you tell that DevOps people use this command. Which command? You tell them configure this command, or else if you know how to configure it, you can configure it also. The same profile you can configure there, and you can pass it as a runtime argument. You can pass it as a runtime argument also to your class. So if I suppose remove here, without that property it will not work, it will not function, because that URL is mandatory parameters. If I don't pass here, from where I can pass as a command line argument also, you can give your inputs here. The same properties whichever you have here, right? There are n number of default properties in Spring properties file. Many defaults we have. So any of your default you can pass. Any of your default you can pass. So you'll be seeing many defaults. Debug is default false. If you want to pass debug value, character set in console, there are many properties. So much debugging level, logging level, server address, server port number. You may see there are many. Server shutdown. There are a number of default properties. Out of these defaults, the one important that we are using is server.port, and the other one that we used for this profile is spring.profiles.act. Where is it? Spring dot. Okay. All parameters not showing. Maybe you can type spring dot and you can see all the spring default properties. Spring dot profiles. Yeah, you can see all the spring properties here again, which are all default. So you may put them here, or any property from here you can pass it from your command line argument. Now corresponding properties file. We have corresponding properties files. Okay. In last session I said that you can use both properties and YML. Now just we are dealing with properties only. Okay. Now as soon as I run this, it will say definitely local properties are not available. I mean it will say URL not available. Even profile, about profile, it never think, because no profile is configured there now. I removed the profile and running it. It is saying no profile is set. Forget about your error. It is saying here itself no profile set. So it is by default taking default profile, means default properties file. In default properties file, URL is not available. So it is unable to inject the URL. So definitely it is failing. So now either here you configure your profile. Without configuring profile, the additional properties are not getting loaded. With all that properties only your application will run. Now what you can do here is you can configure it as a runtime argument, usually using Java space jar and arguments we can pass there, right? The same argument you can give here, spring.active.profile. While passing from command line arguments, right, you need to put two hyphens here, hyphen hyphen spring profiles active. Okay, so the command line arguments it will expect hyphen hyphen at the front, so that it will understand you are passing from command line arguments. So you give which profile you want. You want to connect with the local database schema or dev or SIT. Give your argument and apply and run it. Now I given local, it will show you The following profile is active, which is local, which means it will pick up the default properties file name application hyphen local properties file. Now if you want to change it, in my local my testing is done, I am moving my code to SIT. There I want to run SIT profile. So what you can do, during before running it in your SIT, you need to pass it as a command line arguments. So the Jenkins pipeline will ask you, do you want to pass any command line argument? Yes. So in Jenkins you may configure like this, the profile active is equal to SIT, apply, run it. Now the following one profile is active, SIT. So here you have SIT properties file, it will read SIT properties only. Now it will connect with SIT database only. Instead of having this many files, you can have one file also. Okay, same example with one file. Quickly I'll copy them into one file and show you. Same way we will do YML also, so that you will be having no confusion. SMS profile, one properties file. Hmm. No, no. So that's why I mean in Spring Boot we use at the rate value to pass the properties. That's how we will pass. It's a simple thing. Self properties file. Correct. No, no. I thought of anyway. I'll show you, right. Simple self-explanatory things. Those are. You understand, right, from last example how that is getting injected. Hmm. Yeah. VM inputs. Maybe you remember increasing cache size, memory size. We configure it in somewhere in server Java somewhere server dot some file. I don't want to recall it. We pass the memory size, heap size, or the JVM arguments we pass there. For that, those are for JVM purpose. Okay, yeah. Nothing to do with your coding. Those are for particular to JVM. Yes. Usually default size it used to provide. To increase that, we used to pass the parameters. Usually we go and change the properties file. Don't tend to recall in Java somewhere folder. We use that. Okay. You also see how to pass VM argument. Okay, from Java folder we do that changes. Here some configuration file they used to provide, maybe in bin somewhere or in release file somewhere. Okay, there will be one server dot file, or you may check it. Okay, Google it. That you can pass, I think, as a VM argument. Nothing to do with your code. Okay. Now the same example with one properties file. Let's see. I'm copying same logic here. And now properties, multiple properties I have. Let me copy one properties file only for all the environments. I'll set up it. Okay, so here I have three properties: driver URL username, and I need local environment properties also here. So when you want, you can use hash hyphen hyphen hyphen, and you can put your one property here, spring dot active spring dot profiles dot active on profile. So you see the difference between the earlier property which we used. To activate, we used spring dot profiles dot active is equal to local or SIT, something we given here. So this property is to choose which environments need to be picked up via runtime argument. Runtime argument, we have given this input. Runtime argument, or else you can keep it in your properties file also. Maybe in top you can put it. When you see spring dot active dot on profile means whatever properties you are configuring here, those properties are belongs to this environment. Whatever you configure here after. Let's say I need four environment properties, right? So I am mentioning here whatever properties I have between this hash to this hash, right? Those properties are belongs to this local. Rather than maintaining a separate file, I can keep them here. Just use this hash separator. Okay. So dev, let's say for local we have local schema, right? So local properties, for dev you can configure dev property, SIT property, UAT properties, whatever you want. Local schema, database we have local schema, dev schema, SIT schema, UAT, and a prod. One file. Now I have only one file, not many. One single properties file I have here. So I have one single properties file. Only one file here. For all properties. For all properties, one single file only. So now it is easy to manage to me. I can go there and easily modify the things. Now run it again. Give your profile. Spring application. Run as. Run configuration. Of course, otherwise how it know it should go for local or SIT or UAT. So as we give an SIT, it is picking up SIT properties. Somehow URL is injecting. From where it is injecting? From your properties file only. But URL is mentioned in five places. One, two, three, four, five. Which one it is picking up? Whichever environment you set. Otherwise, how it will decide? To decide it, either you should configure this here or you should pass it as a command line argument. Okay? You should tell which properties it should pick up. Yeah. No, no, we can use. Who stops you if you use? Hmm. Ah, No, actually, in both ways we can configure. In my project, I used this configurations and separate environment configuration. See, some configurations for deployment purpose, I need few configurations. Every time I don't want to go to my profile file and I don't want to do changes there. Okay, some common properties or for something Kafka connection, some properties I have mentioned here which need to be changed, or some properties are here which need to be changed for each environment before deployment itself. I can have all such configurations here. So you can have both the ways. You can have separate properties file. Writing separate properties file or separate classes are always better approaches. Okay, keeping it as a separate file so that no confusion, easy to read or easy to modify, and it will not disturb other file. When you have a single file, of course, it will create a lot of disturbance as you see many properties in the file, but it's okay. If you see few applications already prepared, they may have justification why you keep one file. So they can have one file there. Okay, you can have one single properties file. The same file you can convert it into YML also. Okay, so it never says use only properties. Now see the same example with the YML also. One single YML or many YMLs you can use. No issues in that. One YML I create. You may try. You may try with multiple YML files also. Now, when you see a properties file in your application, right, you will realize why that properties are configured, what is that profile, right? Easily you can able to understand what they did as part of it. So now let me, yeah. So this example only I'll copy that. I can't recreate it. Instead, what I will do, I'll just I will just convert it. Just application dot properties, right? You do this. Convert properties into YML. YAML. YAML. Comments. It's okay. Yeah. Now you can see they thought it as a common property and picked up here. But how it will work? How it will decide it will go here? So the conversion went wrong actually. So until here is fine, and here after, right, profile local. Here itself we have right click and just right click and convert. There is an option convert properties to YAML. Spring dot active profiles on local. So I need URL. It copied as a common URL, right? How it will pick up for local? It copied everything here. Application dot YAML for multiple profile. Spring dot active profile dev, and we can configure it. Just a line separator is sufficient. Config. So these are the default configurations. Okay, and URLs not required here. A line separator we need here. Implicit key computing. We should be able to separate it actually. Three, okay. With three dashes, we can able to separate configurations. So now config here, profile name. First config profile name. Let's say for local, and keep your property here. SMS dot URL. Okay, dots not allowed, right? Colon SMS URL. Again, it need to be separated as it is having colon. I'm not sure. Let's see. I don't think it will shout. Let me put it in double quotes. So use same line separator. Yeah, that's how it will treat the properties. If you see SMS dot driver this, you need to keep it like this. SMS dot, no. This is a separate property. From here it is done. Okay. Maybe, yeah, as I said, it may go spring dot SMS. Yeah. Now it will go as a spring dot URL for that. So like this. Correct, correct. That's why we arranged it back. Okay. Local dev set, and whatever profiles you have, you can configure them here. So this is how I maintained. I mean, for a project, one file we used, and we maintained all the properties here. A line separator, right? Profile to profile separator we used. I'm not sure. I didn't try it. Maybe you can remove and try it. Okay. Just take this out or comment it out using YML comment and try it. Run it. I think it's unknown property SMS. Which maybe default property. From default, it is saying it's not available. Yeah. So now if I run it without any runtime arguments, see what will happen. So no active profile saying SMS dot or driver not available. Oh, is it? Driver is there, right? So these are the default properties. URL default Okay, even it is not loading the common properties. So let me rerun it again. No profile is active, that is fine. Still driver is not available. Common properties also not getting picked up. Hmm, no, both are the same, right? You can run like Spring Boot app also. Spring Boot app will pick up directly this main class, whereas I am into the main class, so running as a Java class. Both are not different. The same command it use, right? Java command. So by defaults are correct. Otherwise, run as a Java, it will search and ask you which is Java main application. Spring.active profile dev is fine. Common properties not picking up. Uh, default should be fine. Or else let me give default profile name itself. Or else these properties will not available. Okay, forget about common. Let me put them here. sms.url username password local dev sit something prod. So now we have four environment files local dev sit and give hyphen hyphen spring dot active dot sorry profiles dot active is equal to local apply and run. The following profile is active, which is local. I hope it is working. So let's call this API post method and see is it real. Of course, it picked up. Otherwise, it would have giving errors. It picked up here. Maybe you verify it. So what is our URL here? Student only, right? So just student localhost 9090 post student with ID name email address. Okay, 5 records we got inserted. Let me insert the fifth record and it should be inserted into 404 not found as student post mapping and the port number is 9090. Do you see any issue here? ID name, email address, ID. Oh, am I referring? Yeah, sorry. This one, right? Create student only URL. Yeah, let me shut down and run it in debug mode. So your call should come here and it should get inserted. Spring profile, YML example, debug as Java application. Spring profile imported from location class path resources YML is invalid and should be replaced with the spring.active profile on. Then how it worked fine before? Okay, this property is missing. Spring dot profiles dot active is equal to local. Check here, are we referring to the same application or not? Which project it is belongs to? Okay, YML application. From this project, this one and profile is fine. Now run it. Is it? Yeah, we need to give on profile active. Spring profile name we have given. Spring profile local on active. I think we should mention here Spring profile on active. It is confusing how it worked before and why not. Okay, Spring dot. Let me. Yeah, I don't want my intention. I don't want to activate them here itself. I just want to configure them here. So for configuring itself, one bad example we copied. Actually, first we configured Spring profiles on active, right? On active, we should configure. That is what it is saying. Don't use that. Use this property design. Spring dot profiles dot on active. Same like there. Spring dot config dot active on active profile is equal to local. It is saying use this property instead of Spring dot profiles. When the argument is local, it is saying indirectly pick up this property on property local, pick up local property on it is dev, pick up these properties on it is sit, pick up these properties on it is prod, pick up prod properties. Okay, run it and see. I'm surprised first how it worked. Later it started giving error. So now 8080 is already in use. So we have not configured port. Server column port is equal to 9090. Now your profile is getting picked up, server started. Yeah, one profile is active, that is local and running in 9090. I doubt this is a common property. Just on top of properties, I configured it. So common properties picking up. Okay. So maybe you can move these common properties to upwards. Here, after server port, you can configure SMS dot driver, password, username, apart from URL. Common properties you can put on top of all profiles. Same like YML. Common properties here. Yeah, yeah, this might be acting, but still see, will that work in such a way or not again. Now local, for local it is working. Consider if it is a common property, it should work for dev also. Okay, let me first hit this URL. Create student. Let me insert this data. Okay, already fifth record also got inserted. Sixth record. It should be inserting into. Okay, so it got inserted. It should be inserting into local schema. Currently it is running in local. So for local we used local schema database. So use this local schema. So use local schema and select a star from student. So sixth record got inserted into local schema. Now let's shut down and go to main method, run as, run configurations, argument, change it to dev, apply and run. Uh, so line separator is not there, considering it for local only. If I put line separator, 1, 2, 3, 9090 not picked up. By default, again it is going with 8080 only. Okay. It is considering that property also for local. Above or below we configured, right? Just on top of local. So until it is finding line separator, all the properties considering it for local only. Now we have line separator. Above line separator, these properties are common now. Now see, I given dev, but dev also it is running fine. 9090 picking up. Profile is dev. 9090 is common. Yes, of course. We can move them there. Now same Praveen inserting here, getting inserted into dev profile. So use dev schema, let's see whether data got inserted or not. The sixth record getting inserted here. Okay. So all the properties you can shift to above and try it. Okay, it will work. It should work. You can move this SMS dot driver URL. Sorry, keep URL here. Move driver password username to here upper section, and as these are common properties, right? You may move them. This example is okay. We have one common property 9090. Usually, apart from driver, most of the parameters we used to change username, passwords, also. Yeah, I think that's it. This is how you can configure your profiles in the properties file. Now coming to one more example, we have profile annotation also. We have at the rate profile annotation also we have. Okay, at the rate profile annotation. At the rate profile annotation we have. Okay, so under this profile also you can configure a profile name like local or dev, whichever environment you want. So when you configure that, then that particular bean will be used for only for that particular profile. Let me show you a simple example, simple test method I'll show you here. I'll be creating one in the same example. Anywhere, right? Anywhere of these examples, create one simple bean. One simple bean I'll be creating. Config beans. Simple configuration class I'll be creating here. Anything out of your application, right? While writing classes, if any class you want to a particular profile, I have two configuration classes. One configuration class need to be executed in local, the other configuration class need to be executed in production. So you have one production separate config class, one local separate configuration class. You may put profile here on top of class level. Profile on class level. So if you put dev, this configuration class will be executed for dev. Let's say rename it. Let me dev configuration beans object. This bean should create only for dev profile. Okay, and I'll configure one more class sit config beans. This should be running for sit profile. Now let's shut down and run the same application again and see whether that bean will be created or not, which bean it will create. See, I given profile dev. For profile dev we have one class. So if you see here, dev config beans is creating. Dev config beans is creating for what? For dev profile. What about this class? This class is not at all picked up. Usually, while starting your application, it need to scan all the classes and should be created objects, right? But why this class is skipped? Because this class is not at all required for dev profile. As you said explicitly, it is for SIT. So this class will be created for SIT only. If I shut down and run it back, frozen. Which location you are in? Omkar, Om Prakash, right? Prakash. So maybe the internet blocking. Yeah, yeah. For you people it is okay. It is not in India, right? SIT, run it. So now SIT bean is created. Okay. Not only your properties, your beans also you can specify. on complete class level itself. If you need a class for a particular purpose for dev, so you can put profile dev, and all dev required configuration you put here. And you don't want to run this class for production, you may skip it just with profile. Maybe your test classes, right? Whatever JUnit tests you write here. Perfect example is if you write some test classes here. If you want to run your test classes for only until SIT, or only for dev, or only for SIT, in local anyway you will be running it. So you may configure here profile equal to SIT, or you may configure it for only dev. In SIT generally unit test nobody executes. So only in dev to test your coverage, if you want to execute these test classes for dev environment only, put dev. Or else if you have any specific configurations, few configurations I have here, they that configurations I need for only dev, put all that configurations there. And when it shifted to SIT, I want to change the configurations to SIT environment configurations. You may change them here. It will give you that flexibility. And now I'll create a common class. I'll create a common class at the rate configuration. Here you can create the beans, maybe public string dev string at the rate bean. This bean I am executing, and I want this for a profile dev. On profile dev only, I need this parameter. On profile SIT, I need this. Same for local, I need a different string. On bean level also you can configure your profiles on your class level or on your bean level also, so that you can decide these beans when it should be created. Okay, if I put SOP, I can see bean level also it will create based on your environment. Now if I run my class, the profile is SIT, so the SIT at the rate bean method will be executed. SIT configuration being executed, and SIT string I am getting here at the rate bean method. So it is using for at the rate bean also. Okay, so profiles you can configure this way to decide your application, for that particular environment, which all objects need to create, which all properties you need to pass. Everything you can decide via profile configuration. Very, very important. Okay, so go through this example and check all these approaches. Okay, Maven profiles we will see later. That is not particular to our discussion, but we will see it. Okay, uh, dependencies wise, if you want to see in Maven also we have profiles concept, so that we can see, not particular to Spring. Okay, nothing to do with Spring from in Maven, but we will see. If you understand this one, that Maven example also, if you see right, you can easily get it. Why that profile is and how I can utilize it. Okay. So are you guys clear so far? We will see from tomorrow, right? Data JPA and Spring JDBC once again. With the Spring Boot, we will do that. Okay. Spring Boot AOP also we will see. Then we will shift to microservices. Okay. Yeah. So there we will discuss many concepts like starting with again configurations, right? We did these profiles in local only. We do profiles one more step ahead. We go to the global configurations and we see that. And the gateway concept, why gateway is required, course configurations. All that discussions I can do here, but it will not get you realization. There it will, add some with the microservices if we discuss, right? That will give you justification. Okay. Tomorrow we'll see data JPA, JDBC. Yeah. Hmm. Nothing to do with REST API, right? Here also we created REST API only. If you see our class itself, a REST class. Okay, we will see that REST with the REST template. Yeah, Spring Batch example, right? Yeah. So yeah, thanks for reminding. In Data JPA, I'll show you that batch configuration. Okay, just we need to add that batch configuration, and the Spring Batch processing is different. Uh, for database, batch is different again. So Spring Batch. Okay, I'll show you batch with GPA and batch operations also. We will see that. Yeah, yeah, yeah. Spring Batch is okay. Transactions we will discuss. Transactions again multiple types. Okay. We need to see local transactions. Okay. I will apply local transactions and show you. Then we will talk about global transactions in microservices. Okay. Simple transactions we can see in Spring Boot also. That we will do along with the JDBC and the data JPA. We can do that. Okay. And REST concepts, leave it for microservices. REST implementation is nothing but creating post, put, delete methods only here with the REST controller. Okay, the same thing we do there. There we will call application to application. There you can see how REST template or Fin clients. There are multiple clients to call service to service. There we will see them again detailed. Okay. So what else? Command line runner. I wanted to show you application runner and command line runners. Particular use case, I'm not sure, but if you want, you can see this example. Okay. In case if you want to pass any properties to your application, already we know we can pass as a runtime arguments here from run configurations. You can pass here. So the default configurations you are passing here, right? So if you want to inspect them before, or if you want to read them, there are two, argument reading classes they have given. Okay, one is application runner. You can implement your class from application runner class, a simple component class. Whatever arguments you are giving there, right, that arguments will be forwarded here into this run method. If you need any properties to achieve something, you can implement your class from application runner and get that properties here also. Not only default properties, you may put properties which you want for your application. Okay, like your main method argument, right? Same way it will pass your arguments here into application runner, and command line runner also one more interface given. Same, whatever arguments you have given, it will supply here. So just create a Spring Boot application and implement two classes. One class application runner with application runner interface, put at the rate component or configuration on top of it, and implement one more class command line runner. Okay, and just go to your class and go to run as configurations, pass from chunk of properties here. Okay, so I'm giving, let's say, when you run it, right, when you run it, usually it will pick up these two classes, this class and this class. These both classes will be executed. So now whatever you passed here via command line arguments, all these command line arguments will be given there. Let's say this is your default property. I'll pass some more properties. A equal to capital A, B equal to capital B. Some properties I'm giving here. With hyphen hyphen A equal to A, I'll give something B equal to B, something X Y Z I'll give. So I have two key value pair set with hyphen hyphen, one key value pair set with simple property, and one XYZ I have with no key. I mean with no value. Apply and run it. Oh no. Yeah. All the properties which we have given, reading and printing there in the two classes. Okay. So you may go through that example. Not difficult to understand. Okay. That's it. Yep. Correct. Usually we never do that, but in case if you have any huge dependency of runtime arguments, use any one of it. Both will help you. Application runner or command line runner. If you go command line runner, it will give all the properties as it is, whatever you have given there. Each argument it will pass you. You can iterate through them and use it for a purpose. If you go application runner, right, they give an application arguments as a argument here. So using this argument, right, there are three methods given. Argument dot get non-optional arguments. So when we run it, right, first it given non-optional arguments here, which are optional, which are non-optional. Non-optional means mandatory arguments. And one more method, optional arguments. What are all the optional arguments we have? And the final one is set source arguments. What all source arguments we have given. If you want to see them, put a line separator. Get non-optional arguments. Just a minute. I'll allow you to ask. Get source arguments. And in command line runner, it will give everything. Now see, it is saying non-optional arguments. B equal to B, X, Y, Z. We given Kali simple parameter, right? That one. Considering like non-optional arguments. And optional names means your keys, name values, right? We have A equal to capital A we given, spring dot profiles dot active is equal to something we given, right? SIT. Only that names it is giving this method. And get the source arguments method is giving only this parameters, which we use for hyphen hyphen, like Spring Boot active profile, right? Which all you given with hyphen hyphen Oh, not only that, everything it is giving. Get source arguments means it is giving everything. And these are coming from your command line argument runner. There also it is providing everything. A equal to A, B equal to B, X, Y, Z, and active profile also. So get source arguments also giving all the arguments, and your command line runner also will give you default all the arguments. When you use get non-option arguments, it will give without hyphen hyphen whatever you configure that parameters it will give. Get option names will give only keys of hyphen hyphen parameters, optional keys. Okay, uh, let me do this. Yeah. In Java, it is optional. Configurations. This. Hmm, correct. Same argument we pass there also. Correct. So it is saying, yeah, optional parameters. It is saying hyphen hyphen. So when we use hyphen hyphen, these are optional parameters. It is taking these two. Okay. So for Spring Boot properties, we use this. At any cost, we put hyphen hyphen and configure them. And coming to your properties, you deal with it in whichever way you want. You want with hyphen hyphen or simple key and value or simple parameters. It up to you. Okay. Yeah. So I think that's it. Tomorrow we'll go with database examples, JDBC and ORM. Spring Data JPA I'll show you. And thereafter we will move to microservices. If anything, if I see I'm missing, I'll add it.